We are really fortunate and lucky, and I'm anxiously awaiting hearing our speaker today, Mike Hudson. He's been a professional, excuse me, professional photographer since 1989, which means he goes back to the Brownie Hawkeye days. And you could see this beautiful piece of technology. I'm in awe, so I got to be objective now. But he's photographed kings and queens and movie stars and athletes and thousands of normal people. He was born in Australia, so he can speak multiple forms of English. Um, he was because he was raised in England and then in southeast Wisconsin. So, he knows what abroad is and so on. But prior to coming to Chicago, that's where he lived. He came to Chicago in 1985. And please welcome our Tuesday Club speaker, Mike Hudson.
I have to say, it's really weird. Like, as a professional photographer, I'm used to being behind the camera. So this is really strange for me to have you guys all staring at me, but this should be good. Um, just so you know, this camera is not actually all that old. It's 30 years old. I bought it in 1993. It's a 4x5 field camera, they call it. And in the back, you would put a big sheet of 4x5 inch film, and you could shoot really high quality pictures with it. I haven't actually taken a picture with it for several years, but it's my most beautiful camera. I've owned probably 50 cameras, and this is by far the most beautiful camera I've ever had. So I just thought you guys would want to see that.
Yes.
So, yeah, my name is Mike Hudson. I'm a professional photographer. As Elliot said, I've been doing this for 36 and a half years now, and I live out in the western suburbs, and I do all kinds of photography. And I just thought I'd kind of show you guys a little bit about what my life in photography has been like the last several years. Oh, that's working. Good. I'm gonna start with a few little quotes here. This is by Jan Moreau, who actually was not a photographer at all. If you know your art history at all, he was a painter and sculptor and did ceramics. But I thought this was an interesting thing he once said. This quote says, "You can look at a picture for a week and never think of it again. You could also look at a picture for a second and think of it for the rest of your life." And if I sum up what he's saying, it's some things we see all the time and they just don't mean anything. Some things could really make such a big impact, you'll remember it the rest of your life. And I'm sure there's probably some pictures you guys have seen, maybe art or photography, that really has made an impact on you. But I just thought that was a great quote. Ansel Adams, the famous landscape photographer, said, "You don't take a photograph, you make it." And I really like that because, we all talk about taking photos, but I think about making photos, or I sometimes say creating photos. And I think that turns just making snapshots, which I don't like to do, into art. And I sometimes will see, I'm going to show you some of my commercial photography work, but I'm going to show you a lot of my artistic work. And that's where I feel like I'm much more of an artist instead of a photographer. In my commercial work, I'm a photographer. When I do stuff like this, I'm an artist who uses a camera. Ansel Adams also said, "A great photograph is one that fully expresses what one feels in the deepest sense about what is being photographed." This is Acadia National Park in Maine. I don't know if you guys can see this. This hangs above my living room couch. A lot of art, a lot of creativity went into creating that. It wasn't just a snapshot. I didn't just go up with my phone and take a picture. And that's what this is talking about. I love this place. And I'm going to show you a whole bunch of pictures from Maine that I've shot. And hopefully it conveys a little bit of the sense of what I feel about this place. Couple more. This has to do with the photography gear and equipment. A lot of photographers think that if they buy a better camera, they'll be able to take better photographs. But a better camera won't do a thing for you if you don't have anything in your head or in your heart. And that's really true because I've run into a lot of people over the years who have maybe spent $4,000 or $5,000, $10,000. I had a guy who came on one of my workshops who had a $60,000 camera, and it weighed 65 pounds in his backpack, and his pictures were nothing special at all. So it's not the gear, it's what's in your head. So next time someone asks you for money to buy a really expensive camera, you can tell them that. When people look at my pictures, I want them to feel the way they do when they want to read a line of a poem twice. And I just found this saying yesterday. I thought that's really good. I like that. Because when you read something, it's like, I got to reread that. That's really special. I want people, when they look at my pictures, to stop and stare at them. I love it when, like, I do an art fair in Maine every year, and I love it when people come to my booth and they just look at it for a while. It's like, that's great. It kind of it sinks into their mind a little bit. Last one. If you want to be a better photographer, stand in front of more interesting stuff. And it's really true. So I have to say, some really good photographers can photograph some really boring stuff very creatively and make really boring stuff look really cool. So that's true, but it's not entirely true. All right. So as Elliot said, I was born in Australia in 1966 and grew up in the US and in England. Like I said, I've lived in the western suburbs for the last 35, 40 years. So I'm pretty much Chicagoan now, I guess. Um, but because when I was little, we moved to Australia, we moved from Australia to California, and then we moved up to Racine, Wisconsin. So most of the 70s, I was living in Racine, not too far away from here. And my dad got a Pentax Spotmatic camera, and he would take pictures of our family, my sister and I, oops, and my parents, and all the places that we went to visit in California. And when we came up to Racine, we had my parents saw snow for the first time, and he took lots of pictures. And he would send those pictures back to my grandparents back in Australia to show what we were doing and what we were seeing. And so I don't know if you guys remember, do you remember doing slideshows where my dad would get out the slide projector and we'd darken the room and, you maybe take a picture off the wall and shine the picture. Kids these days have no idea what you're talking about because no one does slideshows anymore. But as a young boy, I used to love when my dad would get all these pictures out and show pictures of all the places we went. And I think that really influenced me to love travel photography and love photography and to really see how much pictures can mean to someone. So over the years, my parents were living in England, and I was bringing every time I go to visit them, I would bring all of my dad's slides, and it took probably like 3 or 4 years because I had weight restrictions. But I finally have all my dad's pictures, and I finally finished about 6 months ago scanning all my dad's pictures. It's about 7 or 8 thousand. So, but it's really cool. They're all on my computer now, and I can share them with my siblings, and it's great to go through those pictures now. So this is a picture. It's my parents in the middle. It's my sister on the bottom right. This is March 1967, and that's me on the far left there. Back when you would walk out on the runway to go up to your plane. So this is me about to head off to America to live in the US. As a teenager, living in England, so we moved to England in 1979. I was 12 years old, and I started to get into photography. And I learned from going to the library. I'd get books out on photography. I'd look at photography magazines, and really love to learn about the creativity involved in making images. This is me with a red circle around my head. That's me in Princess Diana in 1984. A newspaper photographer, I met her a couple times, but a newspaper photographer took that picture, and I was able to buy a copy of that. I realized early on I wasn't really all that excited about photographing celebrities because celebrities come and go really quickly. But I thought, wow, the Queen of England, people know who the Queen of England, they'll remember her for hundreds of years to come. So I started going around because I started going around to see the royal family. And during the summertime, I would go and find out, I'd look at the newspaper where they're going to be at what events, and if they're like doing a ribbon cutting somewhere or visiting the new wing of a hospital or something like that. And I would go and photograph Princess Diana, the Queen, Prince Charles. And it was really fun. It was kind of exciting to photograph these very well-known people. And if you think of this is the mid 1980s, Charles and Diana were sort of the big thing. They're always on the news, always in the newspapers. So for about 3 summers, I did that, and I've built up this big collection. Now I'm trying to figure out what to do with this collection. Someone at the New York Times said they were interested in publishing them a couple of years ago, but it didn't work out. But so I'm still working on that. Hi. Yes. Yes. Oh, quick release. Move this a little bit. Okay, so a couple more shots there. But what was really cool for me, photographing the royal family, was watching the photographers. And everyone else was kind of, I was watching the royal family too, but I was also had another eye on the photographers, watching how they worked and looking at the equipment they used and things like that. These are all probably 600 or 800 millimeter lenses, all worth probably $7,000 or $8,000 at the time. But it was just really cool to see all that equipment. So as a photographer, you do get into the technological side of things, and that was really neat to see. And what goes around comes around. So if you look at the top picture there, that's Prince William when he was 4 years old. And the picture on the left is when he was 6 years old with his mother. And then in 2011, this is him getting married. So I actually went to his wedding and photographed his wedding. I wasn't hired to, but I sat on the streets, camped on the streets for a night and photographed that. And that was really fun. And one other thing, anyone recognize the man in the middle? Who's that? Ringo Starr. I'm a huge Beatles fan, and I got to see Ringo 3 times. And that was really cool. I don't have a picture here, but there's one picture where Ringo stopped and he looked at me, posed for me. I thought, wow, one of the Beatles posed for me. It was pretty cool. The woman here with the star on her, that's Barbara Bach, who is Ringo's wife, still is his wife. And if you recognize the woman, Goldie Hawn? Most people I say, this is Goldie Hawn, they say, who's that? But the young people don't know who Goldie Hawn is. I didn't realize till the pictures came back. I cut off the guy next to Goldie Hawn. It's her husband, Kurt Russell, who's also a major movie star. So sorry, Kurt, but I left him out there. But that was really fun. So when I'd photograph royal events, a lot of other people would show up too. So it was kind of fun to see Ringo Starr at that. But I've been a professional photographer, like I said, since 1989. I've photographed lots of different things. I'll go through a little bit of the commercial work I've got, and then I'll show you more of the artistic stuff. So I like to tell people there's 2 sides to my photography. There's the commercial work, and then there's the fine art. The picture on the left is from a college in Naperville. They're one of my clients. The picture on the right is at the same place. This picture was taken in Acadia National Park in Maine. That's more of the fine art work. A lot of the commercial work I've done has been in healthcare. So I've been in probably 50, 75 different hospitals, and I've done a lot of healthcare photography for websites, for ads, for all kinds of stuff. And it's been really interesting because when I started doing pictures in hospitals, I didn't really know anything about, like I remember someone said, we're going to take pictures in oncology today. I was like, what's oncology? Now I've gotten to learn a lot. I've been in so many hospitals. I know a lot about medical stuff. But one of the cool things about my commercial photography is I've gotten to go to places where a lot of other people would never get to go. So I've gone in probably 40 or 50 surgeries. And it's really pretty cool to be in a surgery and see what these skilled surgeons can do. Occasionally they've had people put scrubs on, they've faked a surgery, but most of the surgeries I've done have been real ones, and it's been really cool to see what they can do. I had someone recently say, what's the neatest thing you've ever photographed? And I said, well, it has to be open heart surgery. And you would think the first surgery I ever shot, I thought, I might be, no, what if I throw up? What if it's so queasy. But when you're in there, it's so amazing what surgeons can do that it's fantastic to photograph. The reason I was in to do this surgery, this was in Joliet. This man here is a top cardiac surgeon. The hospital had just hired him, and they wanted to promote him. So they told me, okay, we're going to have you go in and shoot him doing some surgery. So I had to be put scrubs on head to toe. They wanted me up on a ladder looking down. So we got a little step ladder. We had to wipe the whole thing down with alcohol wipes. And then they put a garbage bag over it, right? And then they had me stand on this ladder right above the patient's head. And I'm standing on a ladder with a plastic bag on it. And I was so scared that I was going to slip off the ladder and totally ruin everything. Of course I didn't, so it worked out okay. But that was one of the pictures I shot. I was really there to photograph the surgeon, but I had to get some close-ups of their hands because they look like they're so skilled. It's such a neat shoot. And to look in the heart cavity, And we've all got a heart in our chest, but to actually see someone's heart beating, you could see it moving. I thought that was one of the best things I've ever photographed, just because you don't get to see that kind of thing. Another shoot I did for a hospital was we had to get a picture of an ambulance, and they wanted to put on a billboard to show their new ER services, something like that. So we got a name. The ambulance drivers gave us about 20 minutes, and I was standing in my client's car, like up through the sunroof, facing the back of the car. So as the car drove down the street with their lights flashing, their siren going, I was taking pictures. Now, I wanted to have this, I wanted a lot of energy and I wanted to look really cool and stuff. And the picture ended up like this, and I thought, that's just a bit dull. So for this, I had to do some Photoshop work and I had a little bit of energy and life to it. And so sometimes with commercial photography, that's the kind of thing you do. So I gave a little bit of that speed. Other work I've done a lot of editorial, excuse me, editorial photography, which means magazine work. Um, These are all, a lot of these are CEOs. The woman on the left is, if you remember when the Cubs won the World Series, this was the year just after they won the World Series. This is Gina Grimm, who was Justin Grimm, the pitcher, who I think he won 3 games in the World Series. That's his wife. And the woman in the middle is at least was the CEO of Nicor Gas. So it's been kind of fun to photograph interesting people. Um, Lots of other stuff I've shot. So these are all various people. Top right was for a senior center, senior homes that I photographed down in the south suburbs. Uh, College students, college professor. Bottom left picture was at the Morton Arboretum. I was their photographer for about 10 years, doing freelance work for them. I've done a lot of work for architects. That picture is down in Champaign a couple years ago. The woman in the top left played for the Chicago Red Stars, the women's soccer team in Chicago, and also played for the USA on the US women's soccer team. And really nice woman. But my first love, like I said before, has been fine art and landscape photography. And that's the key to that was for me is making beautiful images. Sometimes they tell artists, okay, you need to have an artist statement. What's your purpose in doing what you're doing? And for me, I boiled it all down to one word, was beauty. I really love to make beautiful images. And like I said before, I love to make pictures that people will stop and they'll stare at and just really, really get into their heads a little bit. So I have several different almost projects. It's not just landscapes. I'm going to start off with a series I've been calling the Chicago Project. And I started taking these pictures probably 12, 15 years ago. I kind of wasn't into going to Chicago too much. It's kind of busy, it's noisy, you can't park anywhere and it can be expensive and all that. But I was walking down Michigan Avenue one day and I saw there's a lot of tourists. And I realized some of these people have probably thought all their lives, wow, it'd be so cool to go and see Chicago and to see the skyscrapers and things like that. So it started making me appreciate more Chicago and what there is to see there. And I love the architecture. I'm not an architect in any way, shape, or form, but I love some of the buildings and what I like to do when I do these pictures, I like to not just take a snapshot of the buildings, but I like to creatively approach these. Anyone know this building here? The Aqua building, right? Probably about 20 years old now. To me, this is probably one of the coolest buildings in the whole city because they've made all the balconies. I mean, it's like water. It's like they're so curvy. So I've shot the Aqua building many times. I think it's such an amazing building. This is LaSalle Street. I try to take different angles instead of just taking a picture of a building right there. I'm looking up. I'm seeing different things. What I particularly like is getting pictures of other buildings reflected on buildings. So I do a lot of this where it's a little bit more abstract. And there's so much glass and steel in Chicago. I've done a lot of images like this. It's the 333 West Wacker building. My sister used to work on the 33rd floor of 333 West Wacker, right on the river. It's like the building was designed to curve with the river. It's green. This is also on Wacker, I think, just a little further down. And again, you're looking at basically another building reflected into one building, into their windows. And I love stuff like this. This is on Wacker Drive, just where it starts to curve a little bit. It's anyone know what we're looking at here?
Green Tower?
No. It's the Merchandise Mart. Yep. But it's like a fairground mirror, you know, where it's all curved and it bows in, bows out. This was taken probably 10 years ago now. This is one of the newer buildings right at the head of the river, right near the Merchandise Mart. And as they were building this building, the windows just, I mean, just made it look so cool. And this one was shot just a couple years ago. This is just apartments, just lights on and different colors. So again, it's a bit more abstract, a bit more creative. And again, the Aqua building there.
Do you do something to your camera to make it look like that?
No, that's what the building really looks like. Yeah. Maybe like by show of hands, you guys, anyone seen the Aqua building? You know where it is? Yeah, it's I'm trying to think, if you know where the Hyatt Hotel is on the river, just by the Michigan Avenue Bridge. If you went like from the Michigan Avenue Bridge, went just a little further east, it's kind of tucked behind the Hyatt Hotel over there. And like I was saying before, the balconies have all been curved like that. So if you just stand there and look up, it'll look just like that. So it's a fascinating building. I think it's also the first building in Chicago designed entirely by, at least designed by a woman. And I think her whole team was mostly women. Jeannie Gang's her name. Yes.
Could you repeat the question?
She's still saying, yeah.
Up in those balconies, because I don't see, of course I know we can't see inside the balconies, I just.
People actually sit on the balconies.
People
is
sit on the
question.
balconies. I think they do. This is taken from the ground, looking straight up, so you can't see if people are there. I have looked out on some of these balconies. I mean, some of them get really thin right here, and then they get kind of wide. So it's if you bought up an apartment in this building, you want to make sure that you get one of the balconies that has like a bit of space, because some balconies probably only have like a foot or so. So, but yeah, I think there's railings there, and I think people do go out on the balconies. I was walking down Michigan Avenue a few years ago, and I saw this art gallery with paintings in it. And there were all these beautiful paintings with lots and lots of paint on them. And it showed all kinds of color on the streets. And I thought, and it just looked really great. And I thought, how could I do that with photography? So I realized it'd have to be a wet night. It'd have to be rainy, and I didn't want it to be too late at night. But I just wanted lots of color. And instead of getting black roads here, you've got all that red and green and yellow splashed on the road. And I just love all that color in the picture there. And you got the blue sky in the back too still. And then the river right there. I do shoot now with a digital camera, which is, if you know photography, it's 102 megapixels, which is, you can blow up a picture really, really big. And I love that, because if you were to see this picture blown up, you'd be able to see every little detail. And it's really cool, because it really makes you feel like you're really there. And I do have a drone. I'm going to be showing you pictures of a drone where I can do aerial pictures. I've flown in Chicago a couple times, and I'll probably never fly there again. And I'll tell you why in a second. But this is one of the pictures above Maggie Daley Park here. Recognize that? But I went with a friend who flies drones in Chicago all the time, and his pictures are just phenomenal. I thought, oh, I want to go try that. Looks really cool. So we went over by we were by the river. We actually had been taking pictures for about half an hour, and I went to this over by the river, and I got my drone out. It's about $1,000 drone, and pushed the button to take off, and it went, and I never saw it again. It was $1,000 into the sky. So so I think in Chicago, I don't know if there's like blocking things. I don't know what caused that, but I flew one more time with an even more expensive drone. Is like I don't want to chance that anymore, so I don't fly in the city. And occasionally, I've been hired to photograph people in buildings, and it's like while I'm waiting to take their picture, I might run over the window and get a shot looking down because most of the time you're taking pictures in the city, you're looking up at the buildings. It is a really great view to be able to shoot from, say, the 30th, 40th, 50th floor, looking down on the rest of the city. Another thing, this is a more artistic place I went to, Joliet Prison, which is I think it's been around since about the 1850s, 1860s, very old. And they closed down. I think they finally closed in about 2002. You might know the Blues Brothers was shot here, and I think they've shot some other movies there. And about 4 or 5 years ago, they had the Joliet History Society had an open day where they, if you, I think it was like donated $50 to the museum, they would let you come in and take pictures for as long as you want. So I kind of had the run of Joliet Prison for a few hours. And you think, okay, it's a little weird, but it's a beautiful old place. I mean, I haven't been in any modern prisons, fortunately, but Joliet is it's still got that sort of Victorian look to it. But because it hasn't been heated during the winter time, it hasn't been cooled during the summertime, the paint's peeling everywhere, and people have broken in, and that's kind of a funny thing, people breaking into prison. Um, but people have vandalized it. There's a lot of spray paint, that kind of stuff. But this was one of the cells, and this is just to kind of show you what a cell looks like now. All that paint peeling off the cinder block walls. And as I went around from cell to cell, I thought, I found this one that just had this beautiful, I mean, okay, it's paint peeling. You think, okay, that's not going to make a good picture. But I saw it as kind of an artistic, that the way the paint, as it peeled, it revealed the colors underneath. And the light was kind of streaking across the wall. And just thought that it just had a beauty to it that you wouldn't expect to see in a prison like that. Same sort of thing, different cell. And there's these old Victorian stairs, like cast iron railings and everything. And again, it's just a beautiful place to be, really. So landscapes. Landscapes is what I really love doing. That's probably my favorite sort of photography, to be outdoors. I love being outside and hoping for good conditions to take pictures. On this occasion, I had been down in, I think, Normal, down in central Illinois, taking pictures for a client and was driving back up to the Chicago suburbs. And in the distance, I was just coming up either I-55 or 57. And in the distance, I could see the sky just kept flashing. And so there was lightning in the sky. And as I probably drove for another half hour. And finally, I got off the interstate and went down one of those little farm roads. I thought, I got to try to photograph this because the sky was just lighting up so much. So I found this, it's really kind of hard to see, but you can't see all the little details, but there's actually, I don't know if you can see here, little fireflies on the side of the road. And then there's a farm over here on the left. And then the clouds just kept lighting up and it just kept flashing and flashing. And I just thought that was really kind of cool. With my family still, most of my family is still living in England, so I do try to get back to see them as often as I can. And when I go, I have tried to go out and photograph landscapes in England. This is just up in North Yorkshire, and these are it's an old stone barn, that probably dates back to about 16 or 1700s. And I just love that the curve of the handmade walls. going all the way up to the barn. Sometimes I will use so all my pictures. I don't add things or subtract things with a computer like digitally. Everything that you see in these pictures really was there. This looks a bit different because I was using an infrared converted camera, so it only sees infrared light. So all the leaves here, what that means is the leaves in this tree they're all green in real life, but I think they absorb the infrared or reflect the infrared, I can't remember. But foliage like that turns white. And so you get a really interesting effect, really beautiful. And this picture, this won the Garden Photographer of the Year top prize about 4 or 5 years ago. So I was kind of really proud of that shot. My mother loved doing walks in the English countryside. So when we go to visit, we'd always go for walks with her and we'd go walking through farms and stuff like that. This is a wheat field. And I love that path. It just kind of curves all the way right through all that grass. You almost feel like you can run your hands on that grass. It's so smooth and fluffy. What's that? This is northern Kansas, near Phillipsburg, Kansas. When I was driving many years ago to Colorado, I was just driving down the road and I looked and I saw this farmhouse up on a hill. And I actually turned around and went up to take some pictures of it. And I've been back to this place probably 6 times now. First time was in 1990. Last time was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And it's this beautiful house that's sort of in the middle of nowhere. And obviously you can tell it's a big house when it was built, probably 1910, 1920-ish. It was a substantial place to live and it was probably pretty expensive. And I love seeing abandoned things like this and wonder what's the story behind that. And I love exploring places with my camera like that. She flew over. Yeah,
Did you see Dorothy was the question.
right. But it's a fascinating place. Anyone know what these are? Tetons, yes. On a family vacation a few years ago, I took my boys out and we got up this is summer, so the sun comes up, I don't know, 5:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So we got up and it was completely dark when we got there, so we're looking like finding our way around with flashlights. And we waited till the sun came up. And I think this is the Snake River right here. And it was beautiful. It's amazing. And to be able to experience these sort of things with a camera is what I love doing. So to see that kind of light it was really nice. These are some woods in England where they call them ancient woodlands. And this is in a very remote area. Very few people until recently went to this place, but it gets a lot of rain. It's always wet. And so all the trees are covered in moss. And it's like this fairy tale kind of place. And it's fascinating. The problem is when you get all these people now have gone to places like this, and then they put these pictures on Instagram or on social media, and it means a lot of people find out about these places, and then they get really busy and crowded. And what's happened now is too many people have gone to there, so they've actually closed this off just in the last year because people were standing on the rocks and the moss was getting torn off. And it's sad, but I'm glad that at least they've closed it off to hopefully return to a more natural state. And this is just another tree shot with an infrared camera again. Just always looking for a creative way to photograph just a normal, it's just a tree, but looking for different ways to shoot it. And I use a lot of different angles. So this is taking a look at almost straight up at the tree instead of just a normal shot. Yes. Yeah, are they for sale? Yep.
Could you repeat the question?
She asked if the photos are for sale. Yes, I've got a website, and a lot of these pictures I put them on my website. If anyone's interested, I've also got a book which I'll be talking about in a bit. If anyone's interested, yeah, everything's for sale. Colorado aspen trees. This was again another family vacation. It's very hard to take pictures on family vacations because you want to be with your wife and kids, and you want to, it's a family vacation. It's not a photographer's vacation. So this is one of my boys and I went out, and we probably got up about again like 5 in the morning. Went out, took pictures of this, and then went back and we did family stuff. And this is a picture coming back from a photo shoot out east. I always tell my clients I love a road trip. So if you want me to go shoot pictures, I did some pictures for a client in Phoenix, and I drove all the way out there. It took me 3 days, but I love that because you get to see the country. And when you take a plane, you miss America, and you just you kind of see it out the window. But I love seeing America. I think it's such a beautiful place. This is just on a state road in Ohio. I think there was it's like a little rest area here or something. I thought that was a beautiful tree. There was a major storm, I think it was even a hailstorm, and then the clouds broke up, and suddenly the sun came out, and it was hazy. The light was like really ethereal, and this again was just driving back from a shoot somewhere out east. When I did that trip 3 years ago to Phoenix, when I would do long road trips, I always listen to audiobooks. I don't do fiction. I love nonfiction. And I was listening to an audiobook. I thought, I want to get something that's appropriate to where I'm going. So I listened to a book about the Depression and the Dust Bowl. And so when I was driving, actually, I went and did the shoot. And on the way back, I would stop by some of these places that were mentioned in the Dust Bowl book. And it was fascinating to see these homes. I mean, I don't know if these exactly, I think that's old enough that would have been around during the Dust Bowl era. But some of these places were just really interesting to me, having just heard all these stories about what people went through during that time. This is in Texas County, Oklahoma, which I think is southern Oklahoma. This was, I flew the drone up. What I do when I do long trips, if I've got a little bit of time, I like to, like I said before, I like to get off the interstate and go and explore a little bit. And I love to go down little country roads, those little gravel farm roads. And I found this building here, right in the corner there. Turns out it was an old schoolhouse. So I went over and looked at it, and there's no fences up. I don't jump fences. I don't trespass or anything, but if it's open like that, I went to go and explore it a little bit. And it was really cool. A lot of times when you find these old places that are abandoned, vandals have gotten in, they've spray painted their names all over, and it just looks terrible. But there's no vandalism in this school at all. And if you look on the top there, there's old tin ceilings. And remember seeing those tin ceilings from very old buildings, all peeling off. And it fascinates me to think back in the 1920s, 1930s, during the Dust Bowl, there were kids in there going to school, and there was life in it. And now it's abandoned and it's just open to the elements. And the coolest part about this was the blackboard was still there, the chalkboard. And there was writing in chalk on the board. I'm sure it doesn't date back to when the kids were there, but who brings chalk with them into an abandoned building? So someone's been writing on the board. I don't know.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question.
Could you talk about the composition of your photos? Like it seems like they're really striking, and some are zoomed in really close. Some are, have the subject like centered. Sometimes the horizon line's high, sometimes low. Like, how do you do all that? And what's your thinking that goes into
Mike, you can hold that off if you want until the end, because we would like to have the questions controlled,
Okay.
but it's up to you.
Sure. We'll come back to that in a minute. Whoops. Back this way. Another house this was just a little bit further down the road. Just again, abandoned, middle of nowhere. I mean, you look at those flat fields. You imagine living out there during the Dust Bowl. You could really see where the dust, once it kicks up, there's nothing to stop it at all. But it's a beautiful, you probably can't really see right here. It was a very sort of pinkish orange house. And again, you wonder what went on? What was it like in the early 30s living here? And old elevator grain. This is also again in Oklahoma. And you don't always have to take pictures far from home. This was, do you remember back in November? I don't know if anyone saw any of the northern lights that came all the way down to here. This is here in the western suburbs. And so I went out at night. This is about 10 o'clock at night. There's a park near me with a pond. And because of I really wanted the water because I wanted to reflect and get like double the northern lights in the picture. So again, you don't have to go far to get good pictures. But we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I just wanted to talk about Acadia National Park. Someone told me about Acadia National Park in Maine several years ago, and finally in 2006, I thought, oh, I got to go check this out. So I took a whole week off work and went out, and because, like I was saying, on family trips, it's been really hard to leave my wife and kids while I went out to take pictures. So I thought, I want to go on my own to take pictures of landscapes without, I could be up any time of the day or night, didn't have to be back to the hotel with the family. So I spent a week there in 2006 and had such a great time. I've been back every fall since. So I think, and I go in the summers too now. So I think I've done like 37 trips there. And so it's kind of like my muse. I've gotten to really know this area super well. It's a beautiful place. Anyone here been to Acadia? That's quite a few. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. And since those days, I've published a book, which is my coffee table book there. I've got a gallery that represents me out in that area. I've done an ebook for photographers. I've been featured in several magazines, and I lead workshops too. So I take photographers out and we take pictures together. This is a group from about a year ago. And just teach them photography and teach them how to just enjoy the beauty of a place like this. So if anyone's interested and wants to go to Acadia with me, October 13th, I think, this year, take another group out there. The great thing about Acadia is the variety. I've been to several national parks, like Rocky Mountain National Park is a beautiful national park. But if you've been there before, you know that if you want to go to somewhere in Rocky Mountain National Park, you got to like drive all over the mountains, and it might take you half a day to get from one place to another. Acadia is on an island, which is about 15 miles north to south and east to west. So you can be on the top of the highest mountain there, and 20 minutes later, you can be down at the coast, like right next to the ocean. And there's mountains, there's coastline, there's woods, there's lots of lakes and ponds like this one here. There's meadows. Doesn't matter what the weather's like, there's always gonna be something really beautiful to photograph. And I've really come to know it quite well over the years. So I'll show you a few pictures. I'll come back to this picture in a minute. I don't normally like for landscapes, I don't normally like blue sky days because it becomes more like a postcard. But if you can come up with different angles and different ways to make it look good, like this is looking straight up with a wide angle lens, and the blue and the yellow are complementary colors, so they really set each other off. On top of one of the mountains there. When I say mountains, this is mountains in Maine. It's not like mountains in Colorado. So they're about, I think the highest is about 2,000 feet, so it's not super high. This is what they call the tarn. And if you've been to Acadia, you might have gone by this, but all these, so I've had a lot of people, this particular print, when I show this to people, this is one of the ones that they really stare at the most because they're trying to figure out, okay, what's actually going on here? I had someone thought it was almost like hieroglyphics, like someone had gotten a marker and written on the picture, like all these little marks and everything. But these are little reeds. This is in the fall, and this is just water here. And these are reeds that are all dying and curving and bending, sinking down into the water. And when the sunlight hits the mountain on the other side of this pond, it lights up the foliage, which then reflects in the water. And if you ever see this in real life, it's just amazing. I mean, you stare at it. The beauty of that color is great. And again, this is exactly what it looks like. I didn't do anything on the computer like to change the colors or anything like that. I was fortunate to meet the owner or the president of the local college in Maine, in near Acadia, and he said, "Hey, we've got this program at one of the islands. Would you come out and photograph our students on this island? I was like, yeah, this would be really fun. So I took my drone and we went to this remote island where there are only about 6 or 7 students living for a couple months. And there's this, you could probably see there's a little lighthouse right here down the bottom. And then just behind it is the lighthouse keeper's house. And it was really cool to be able to go up in the lighthouse and explore and to photograph these students. They were counting like bird populations and things like that. But to be on a remote island like that, which took probably about an hour, hour and a half to get to by boat, that was a really great shoot. Moon rising. This is these are the Bubble Mountains in the middle at a place called Jordan Pond. And you always hope you get beautiful skies like this at sunset. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Beautiful reflections. Boardwalk through the woods. It's the picture here. This path, you can't take this picture anymore because last year the National Park Service actually put a boardwalk right along that hole there. They say it's for some sort of water management or whatever. It's sad. It has a new look, but I really like this. This picture here, I wish I could show you what it looked like before I shot this, but it was a very plain looking area, but I realized when the sun would come out, it would shine on these rocks, and these rocks were they really were multicolored like this. And the ripples was just amazing. And so you get some really beautiful images there. This is sunrise on the coast. And I like this shot so much, I made that the cover of my ebook for photographers. Again, sunrise on the coast. And that became the cover of my coffee table book too. I love waves. I love photographing water. And I love the way the waves just explode on the coastline like that. I could photograph this kind of stuff all day long. This was just this last October. A nor'easter came through, and a lot of the tourists all stayed in their hotels and they just went to the restaurants or museums or did whatever. I thought, I'm going to go out and see what the wind is doing. And because the wind was really blowing and strong, and the waves just, I mean, to watch this in real life, it was like bombs going off, and it's just there's so much energy. It was exciting. Yeah.
Black and white?
Yeah, so my camera would shoot in color, but I knew I was going to make it into black and white. So it kind of is color. I really like black and white a lot. I think a lot of my pictures can be, I only shoot color if color is important to the picture. So this is more about shape and textures and form, so that it becomes black and white. If that makes sense. Another wave coming right at me. But you learn to be safe. I had one time I was photographing waves, and this wave just kept coming and coming. It was almost like in slow motion. And I was standing watching it. It actually went over my waist. And I realized, okay, I need to back up a little bit. But at the coast, never turn your back on the coast. And just great clouds. This is a river I discovered flying a drone. Now, you can't fly a drone in the national park. This is just outside the national park. But I thought, this looks like the coolest place to kayak. So about a year ago, my wife and I were there, and we rented kayaks. And so we started kayaking towards this. And we realized you have to do it at high tide because we got stuck in the mud. We never got all that close. So you learn something. Every time you learn something new. So I do plan on doing it again at high tide. Again, I don't alter things digitally, but this is a long exposure. So this is about a 10-second exposure. These are leaves that have fallen into a pond. And during that 10 seconds that the shutter was open, the leaves are slowly going around in circles. And so they end up blurring into this swirl of motion. Another one there. It was very foggy one night last year and went out and photographed. This is about 8 o'clock at night. There's still a little bit of light in the sky. Plant life. I'll wrap this up with maybe, I think it's like 1 or 2 more shots. Aerial shot again. The color is just amazing in the fall there. Just really incredible. And sunrise. And I think I will stop there because we're just about out of time, but do we have any questions?
Mike, first we want to give you a great hand for doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
We have 2 microphones and we'll take questions. Elliot has got one on his side.
I'll get to, well, let me just get to his question.
Yeah, you had a
composition.
deferred question about composition.
Yep.
You got it.
Yeah, so he was asking about composition. Every picture demands different composition, so it's kind of hard to say. There's lots of different rules of how you compose pictures, like the rule of thirds, where you divide a picture into 3 sections horizontally and 3 sections vertically. And oftentimes you might put your, let's see if I got any shots that would, let's see, this, it all depends on the picture. That's like right in the middle. So that like blows the rule of thirds out of contention there. But there's just so many different ways to compose. It's kind of hard to describe. It's almost like every picture demands a different way.
Well, you know, that's like asking Van Gogh, why did you pick those colors?
Could be, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and I have a question that relates to Van Gogh.
Okay.
If I went into the Art Institute and I saw a picture I really liked by Van Gogh, and I picked it up and walked out, I'd get arrested.
Yeah.
But if I went into the internet and I looked at pictures and I picked off one that was a Mike Hudson, I might enjoy it. How do you deal with the fact that I can get arrested for going into the Art Institute, but many of us don't even give a second thought, but should, of picking up photos off of the internet done by professionals?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer correctly because you want to, I mean, nowadays to to promote yourself, you have to be on the internet.
Right. It's like music in a way.
Right. I feel bad for especially musicians. At least with my pictures, most of the pictures on my website I've got like a little watermark, which at least has my name on it. Now you can get rid of that. But I also don't post them very high resolution on the internet. So if someone was to download one of the pictures, they could probably make a pretty cheap, low quality print, but they couldn't make something like this with detail.
It's beautiful.
So yeah.
Well, Jim has a question.
Yeah, Jim? Here. Oh, this side.
How do you think the photographs coming out in the 1850s changed art?
Changed art?
And how, in the same kind of question is the cell phones today, how does that change photography?
Wow. We don't have a whole lot of time. We could talk about that for hours. Photography wasn't accepted as art for a long time. In the 1850s, it wasn't accepted as art at all. A lot of painters just thought they didn't like photography. Photography, I think, became more accepted as art probably about the 1910s, 1920s. Ansel Adams went a long way to helping that be accepted as an art form. What were you saying about cell phones? Like,
Cell phones change your kind of job, or does it change photography as a whole?
yeah, do cell phones change photography? Yes and no. I think it's great that everyone carries a phone around where they can take pictures. Because 20 years ago, there weren't that many people that carried a little camera around with them. So it means that we're recording our lives more, but it kind of cheapens photography in some ways because because it's so easy and quick. And I call like what I take, like with my workshops, we all take pictures with our phones, but we talk about them being snapshots. You're not typically gonna, I mean, because you're just pushing a button. Whereas when I'm taking a picture with this camera or one of my real digital cameras, I'm thinking, what shutter speed am I using? What ISO, film speed, what aperture? There's a lot of thought. What lens? So phones are great, but they're snapshots. You can really create, if you want to create art, it's more done with a real camera. Though I've seen some people that do some really good stuff with cell phones too. So smartphones.
Oh, Mike, could you please display your 3 websites that you showed earlier?
Sure.
If I could write them down. Thank you.
Actually, I'll go to the end. Now you get to see the pictures that you weren't going to see. But what other questions we had? Yeah.
That picture that you just with the
Oh, the swirl.
squirrels.
Uh-huh.
How do you make that swirl, but the stuff around it is in focus?
Let's see if I can get back to it. Well, you think about it, if I can get back to it.
The time exposure.
Yeah, the rocks aren't moving. The only thing so when you do a long exposure, it's only the things that are moving are the only things that are gonna show movement in the picture. So as those leaves, I tell my workshop people, look around at the water to see that, because unless you're looking, you won't really even notice these leaves are going, really slowly. But over the course of 10 seconds, that leaf might move a foot or something. That's just enough for all those leaves in the pond to blur. But the rocks will stay perfectly still.
Background way overexposed.
Well, the exposure is right. The background, yeah, it's not going to change the exposure. Okay.
I know that you specialize in landscapes, but 10 years ago or so, this woman, you know who she is, she took pictures of Chicagoans from all lifestyles.
Okay.
And somebody found it after, you know anything more about
Vivian Meyer.
those pictures? What's it?
Vivian Meyer.
Yes.
Oh, if you don't know Vivian Meyer's work, it's fantastic.
Before
Yes.
we take our last question, can you tell us again how we may purchase your photos?
Yeah, if I can I'll get to like the very last slide, which is coming up in about 5 shots. There we go. Yeah, I've got some cards over there. It's got my website. It's hudsonfineart.com. Or if you want to see just my Acadia pictures, it's imagesofacadia.com. And I'm going to be around. I'm going to have some pizza with you guys too. So if anyone has questions, you can ask me. But what was the question someone was just asking?
On average,
Vivian Meyer. Yes, look her up. Her work I think is amazing. She was, if you just like the real quick thing on Vivian Meyer was they discovered her work. She was a nanny living in somewhere up in this area. And they discovered her pictures. She had been going around for like 40 or 50 years, taking pictures, black and white pictures of street life in Chicago, around here. It's just amazing. Okay.
On average, how many shots do you take to get one that you would put in the book?
Too many.
It's a good question.
But I try not to do too many, because I know a lot of photographers, like, they think digital, we're not wasting film. And I grew up, half of my career has been with film and half has been digital. So I know how to be a bit more careful about what I shoot. But the more pictures you shoot, okay, maybe you're not wasting any money, but you're wasting your time having to look through pictures. So I've often thought I'd like to go and just take shoot 5 pictures in a whole day or something. But
Mike, last question.
Yeah, we
is
got a
for
Zoom question.
and then we'll turn it back to Elliot.
Okay.
And remember, there is pizza day today. Lou Solomon heads up our North Shore Senior Center for Photography Club. Would you speak to our photography club sometime? Please say.
Sure. If they want to contact me, go to my website, hudsonfineart.com, and send me a message. Maybe we can figure something out.